What do you remember the most? Are you fond of those memories? What are they of? Movies, TV, games? Are they about times when you were a kid? How often do you think about these things? When did you make these memories? How old are you? Do you live with your parents? Did you ever watch Star Wars? How about Nickelodeon? Do you remember old branding? Do you have kids? Are you unhappy? Are there more recent memories you enjoy? Is there any way I can help you remember? And is there any way that I can sell that to you? As time has gone on, it has become more and more common for businesses to use nostalgia as a marketing tool for selling their products. Ever since 2020, this trend has exploded, and now nearly every business is trying it out. This practice of using nostalgia as a marketing tool is called, well, nostalgia marketing. So why is this so common, and how is it being done? I'll answer all that in a moment, but first I need to explain what nostalgia is, as well as some other things about it. Nostalgia is a funny little feeling, one that I'm sure we all get from time to time. By definition, it is a feeling of longing for the past, the memories attached to this longing typically being sentimental. This fondness for a time long gone is what causes nostalgia to flare up in us when we get reminded of those times. Either directly or indirectly, those reminders bring us back to a time when things were better, at least on the surface. We of course understand that these times weren't always good. Whether that is due to internal or external things is dependent on the person, but it is easy to look back on those times and completely forget about the present. I often look back on things throughout my life and dwell on the little details of my past. The memories I go back to the most often are ones from when I was a little kid, before I had any real responsibilities, before I had to go to work and earn a wage in order to pay my bills, a time when life was simpler, a time when life was better. This is just one of the many places people gather the nostalgia from. It can also come from other places too, like movies, TV, music, food, and even video games. It can really come from anywhere, so long as those memories are ones you are sentimental for. A lot of my current nostalgia comes from video games. This is the same case for many of us, but of course not all of us. I did a poll on my community tab asking you all what you are most nostalgic for, and of the 3 options, video games was the most voted for. This is something that I totally understand. I have spent more time with video games than with any other media in my life, so it makes sense that I have some fond memories attached to some of them. This fondness for the past is often described as feeling warm. This warmth has been tied to people being nicer to each other, being more generous to others, and in general, just being better people. When reminded of the good in our lives, we are often able to look past our boundaries and be more accepting of others. We also tend to be less bored and more engaged when experiencing nostalgia, so this makes it an excellent tool for getting us motivated to work, strategize, or do other things. Our behaviors are directly affected by nostalgia. When we feel these emotions, we tend to do things differently, and that can be attributed to a number of factors. Many of these factors are internal, while one is external. This external factor is, at least in my opinion, the most important factor for businesses to use in marketing. The external influencing factor is discontinuity. Discontinuity is likely the biggest developmental cause for nostalgia, especially currently. Discontinuity is the sudden disruption in what we feel is normal. For some, it could be a death in the family. For others, it could just be graduating high school. These shifts in our lives can drastically change how we think and act, splitting us off from what we are used to and placing us on a new track that we are unfamiliar with. Discontinuity is something entirely out of our control, and it increases our desire to put things back into our control. The people who seek to regain normalcy the most tend to be the more willing to jump into products that are remnant of the past. And that is something that businesses swoop in on as soon as they can spot it. Businesses are all eager to make as much money as possible off of us, so it makes sense that they would look towards the easiest and most effective ways of doing that. Nostalgia is the hottest topic here because it seems to be both the easiest and most effective method for sales. Though this isn't always the case, as it does take skill to do this properly. Otherwise, it can cause serious damage to the business. The most volatile method for this practice is in advertising. An example of this being done well would be the Spotify and Neverending Story ad. In this 30-second ad, we see a grown-up Bastion riding Falcor while the Neverending Story song plays in the background. Bastion jokes about how people still listen to the song after all these years, and Falcor laughs. Then the ad tells us about Spotify and their 80s playlist before ending. It's quick, to the point, and is overall inoffensive. The two IPs have nothing to do with one another, but that doesn't really matter because there's at least one good connection between them for the ad. When this isn't done well, then it can just seem like pandering. For me, the Walmart Famous Cars Super Bowl ad felt this way. In this ad, Walmart is trying to advertise their pickup service, and they do this by showing us a bunch of cars from pop culture over the years coming to pick up their groceries. In concept, this is fine, but in practice, it just felt off. Most of the ad runtime is spent with the cars rather than with the service that they are advertising. This isn't super surprising considering it's a Super Bowl ad, but that doesn't help its case either. It was clear that the point of the ad was to get people talking, which it did, but the way it went about doing that, at least to me, felt cheap and unoriginal. It felt like I was being manipulated into thinking a certain way, which is what all of these ads do, but the consumer shouldn't be able to identify that. I don't really know, maybe it's just me and my distaste for Walmart, but I just didn't think this ad hit the mark. The basis of nostalgia marketing is to get into the customer's hearts, and the best way of doing that is to not be super blatant about it, or balance it out well if you are going to be blatant. When it's poorly done, it just seems like you and the things you love are being taken advantage of, which is why so many people hate seeing it, even when it is done well. I did a second poll on my community tab where I asked you all if you actually like seeing nostalgic advertising, and unsurprisingly, the majority of you said no. Many people find it incredibly upsetting to see the things that they love being used as a scheme to get them to buy something. So why then is this so effective if people seem to hate it so much? Well, the answer can be just as upsetting as the ads themselves are. The answer being that people simply just don't care. Either that or they eat it up. Even if the majority of people hate the ad and don't buy the product, there will always be a ton of people who either like it or just don't mind it and engage with the product because of the ad they saw. I said earlier that nostalgia makes us less bored and more likely to be engaged with things. This is true for advertising as well. Even if we hate these ads, we still watch them. And for the people who enjoy the ads, they feel more compelled to buy the product as a result of this extra stimulation. This increases the sales for these things tremendously. Another reason why it's so effective is because it includes things like re-releases or reintroductions of certain products. Some brands will change their logo temporarily to an old one from years ago, others will add an item back onto their sales list for a limited time, or even permanently, all to market on people's memories. This is the less offensive side of nostalgia marketing because there are no real losers in this situation. The marketing that is purely advertising cannot provide you with the thing you are longing for, but things like re-releases can. The thing being re-released won't be the same as it was before it vanished, but at least it's back in some capacity. The company gets their sales and you get the product from your past. It's a win for everyone involved. This is the side of nostalgia marketing that I really don't mind. I'm not saying that this means it's okay, but I can at least tolerate it, though I have also gotten tired of it. It seems like every year now we get the McRib back at McDonald's and Crystal Pepsi pops up somewhere as well. It has become worn and has stopped being about the past. In these instances, it has become about FOMO, or fear of missing out, rather than a gesture of recognition for the past. FOMO is a separate, scummy business practice, and it is a shame that some companies are using it on top of nostalgia marketing to effectively min-max their sales. It all just makes for one big pile of garbage that serves no other purpose than to turn all of your beloved memories into a giant cash cow. Now, despite all the things I've said, nostalgia marketing by itself isn't actually a bad thing. It is just an unfortunate circumstance of the way the world is currently. It is tiresome, and that is mostly thanks to the corporate race. Every company wants a piece of something, anything to make them the most money and establish themselves as an immortal, everlasting entity. But there are so many of these companies, and so few memories to go around. What works for one business will work for everyone else, right? This is the main reason things don't feel the way they used to anymore. Things don't feel quite so unique. Uniqueness is another trait that exists in the minds of people who feel a lot of nostalgia. We crave things that feel unique to us, things that stand out among all the others. So, with everyone doing the same thing all the time, it is a lot harder to find those things that are truly unique. The best way to stop this trend would be for everyone to take risks and be less like the other guy trying to do the same thing as them, but this just isn't a realistic possibility, so it's best to just let things take their natural course instead. So that begs the question, can we actually stop nostalgia marketing? And the answer is, no, we really can't. It's like telling YouTubers to stop copying MrBeast or TikTokers to stop trend chasing. It's just a factor of life. What works for one will work for others. So it is up to us as consumers to truly find the diamonds in the rough. When it comes to my personal opinion on nostalgia marketing, I think about the things that I'm nostalgic for. Most of those things are just memories from the past, things that are hard to capture and advertise. You can't really put the early 2000s into a bottle and sell it, and you can't inject it into a corporate service in any meaningful way. You can only create a crude mockery of it, and even then, it is hard to pull that off. Many different medias from today have started to succeed in doing this though, but they aren't attempting to market off my childhood. These medias are liminal spaces and analog horror. These styles do far more to encapsulate the time period without actually tarnishing it for gain. They're more of an homage to the time instead of a lazy attempt to remind me of a product. Then there are other things that I'm nostalgic for, like first experiences with games that I love. Games like Dark Souls or Mario Galaxy. Those are closer in reach to companies who want nothing more than money. In the case of Mario Galaxy, that came back with Mario 3D All-Stars. Now, I'm not about to say that Nintendo created a lazy port of 3 of their highest selling games, but they made a lazy port of 3 of their highest selling games. And that is okay, well, at least kind of. The kids who never got those games when they first came out and only own a Switch now have the chance to play them. These games have effectively been given a new chance at life, existing in both the past and the present. This collection can't bring back the feelings I felt while playing the game for the first time, but it can certainly remind me of them. Looking at the future of nostalgia marketing, it seems like it won't be dying out anytime soon. So long as people have memories to market off of, these companies will continue at their antics. I can only hope that it will slow down as time goes on, but something tells me that that won't be the case. So unless we're willing to stop it ourselves, then we'll just have to get adjusted to it. As I said before, nostalgia is a funny little feeling. It is something to be cherished, not sought after or sold. Enjoy those times that you have them, and never forget how they made you feel.